The Unexpected Sanctuary. Dr. Sarah Chen felt the research vessel Meridian shudder violently around her as warning alarms screamed through the corridors. The ship's experimental quantum drive had malfunctioned during what should have been a routine jump to the Andromeda research station. Now, instead of emerging safely in human space, Sarah found herself hurtling toward an unknown star system with failing life support and a reactor that threatened to go critical at any moment. Sarah strapped herself into the emergency pod as the ship's automated voice counted down to core breach. She was a xenobiologist, not a pilot, but her years studying alien ecosystems had taught her to adapt quickly to dangerous situations. The escape pod ejected just as the Meridian exploded in a brilliant flash behind her, leaving Sarah alone in the vast darkness between stars. The pod's basic sensors detected a habitable world in the system ahead. Sarah had no choice but to attempt a landing on this uncharted planet. Her pod's heat shield glowed red as it pierced the atmosphere, and through the small viewport, she glimpsed a landscape unlike anything in Earth's databases. Crystalline formations jutted from rolling hills covered in vegetation that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The crash landing sent Sarah tumbling across a meadow of luminescent grass that chimed like bells when disturbed. She crawled from the wreckage with a broken arm and various cuts, grateful to discover the air was breathable. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal, and the twin suns overhead cast everything in a warm golden glow. That was when Sarah first saw them. 3 figures approached through the singing grass, moving with a grace that seemed to defy physics. They appeared humanoid in basic shape, but were composed entirely of shifting, flowing light. Their bodies pulsed with colors that reminded Sarah of aurora displays, and they left no footprints as they glided across the ground. Sarah raised her good hand in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The beings stopped about 10 meters away, and she could hear them communicating in sounds like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. Their language was unlike anything human linguists had theorized, seeming to involve both audible tones and fluctuations in the light patterns that made up their bodies. The tallest of the 3 beings stepped forward. Sarah noticed this one's light was more stable, shifting through deeper hues of blue and gold rather than the rapid color changes of the others. When it spoke, Sarah felt the words resonate not just in her ears, but somehow in her mind as well. "We are seraphim," the being said, its voice like harmony made audible. "I am Elder Thymol. You have come from the void between stars. This is unprecedented." Sarah struggled to her feet, amazed that she could understand them. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, from Earth. My ship malfunctioned and I crashed here. I mean no harm to your world." Elder Thymol's form brightened slightly, which Sarah would later learn indicated curiosity. "Earth? We have no knowledge of this place. You are solid matter. How strange." The elder moved closer, and Sarah felt a warm tingling as Thymol's energy field interacted with her body. "Your arm is damaged. We can help." Before Sarah could object, Elder Thymol extended what might have been a hand toward her broken arm. Light flowed from the seraphim's form into Sarah's injury, and she watched in amazement as the bone realigned and the pain vanished. The healing process felt like warm sunlight flowing through her body. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, flexing her now perfect arm. "How did you do that?" "We are energy-given consciousness," Thymol explained. "Healing is natural to us, as natural as your breathing. But we must take you to the council. Your arrival will cause much discussion among our people." The younger seraphim, who introduced herself as Zara 9, seemed fascinated by Sarah's solid form. As they traveled toward what Thymol called the Heart City, Zara bombarded Sarah with questions about physical matter, how humans ate and slept, and what it was like to be confined to a single shape. The Heart City was a marvel that left Sarah speechless. Spires of living crystal grew from the ground, their surfaces covered in flowing patterns of light that the seraphim used to communicate across vast distances. The buildings seemed to be grown rather than built, their organic curves and flowing lines creating architecture that was both alien and beautiful. Hundreds of seraphim moved through the city, their light forms creating a constantly shifting display of colors. Some paused to observe Sarah, their curiosity evident in the brightening of their energy fields. She realized she might be the first solid being they had ever encountered.
The council chamber was located in the largest crystal spire, its walls transparent to allow the twin suns' light to fill the space with prismatic rainbows. 12 elder seraphim formed a circle around Sarah, their combined radiance creating patterns that she suspected carried meaning beyond her understanding. Elder Thymol presented Sarah's case to the council, explaining how they had found her injured and helped with the healing. The discussion that followed was conducted in rapid light patterns and harmonic tones that made Sarah feel like she was standing inside a living symphony. Not all the council members were pleased with Thymel's decision to help the strange alien. Elder Christak, whose light pulsed with sharp reds and oranges, argued that contact with alien life forms could contaminate their pure society. For millennia, the Seraphim had lived in perfect harmony, their civilization dedicated to art, philosophy, and the cultivation of inner light. Why risk disrupting this peace for one lost creature? But Elder Thymel defended his choice. The Seraphim's core philosophy was based on compassion for all conscious beings. To turn away someone in need would betray everything their species stood for. Sarah might be different, but consciousness itself was sacred regardless of its physical form. The debate continued for hours, during which Sarah learned much about Seraphim society. They had no concept of war, violence, or even competition as humans understood it. Their technology was based entirely on energy manipulation, allowing them to shape matter at the molecular level and communicate across vast distances instantly. They had achieved perfect sustainability, their civilization existing in complete harmony with their planet's natural systems. But as Sarah listened, she began to understand a troubling truth. The Seraphim's very perfection had made them incredibly vulnerable. They had no military, no weapons, no defenses against hostile forces. Their entire society was built on the assumption that all conscious beings shared their peaceful nature. Finally, Elder Thymel called for a formal vote. One by one, the council members indicated their decision through color changes in their light forms. When the final vote was counted, 7 had chosen to grant Sarah sanctuary, while 5 had voted to send her away. "The council has spoken," Elder Thymel announced. "Sarah Chen of Earth, you are welcome to remain among us until a way can be found to return you to your people. We ask only that you respect our ways and share your knowledge freely." Sarah felt tears of relief and gratitude flowing down her cheeks. "Thank you. I promise to honor your trust and contribute however I can to your society." Over the following weeks, Sarah established a small laboratory in a crystal chamber that the Seraphim grew specifically for her needs. She studied their energy manipulation techniques while sharing her knowledge of human science and technology. The exchange proved beneficial to both species. Zara 9 became Sarah's closest friend and research partner. The young Seraphim was fascinated by human concepts like curiosity, determination, and the drive to explore unknown territories. In return, Zara taught Sarah basic energy manipulation techniques. Though Sarah could never achieve the same level of control as a natural Seraphim, she learned to create small light displays and even heal minor injuries. Sarah also worked on modifying her emergency beacon using Seraphim energy enhancement techniques. The original device was designed to reach human rescue ships within a few light years, but enhanced with Seraphim technology, it might be able to send a signal all the way back to Earth. During her research, Sarah discovered something that filled her with growing concern. The Seraphim's energy-rich world would be incredibly attractive to certain hostile species she had studied, beings that fed on energy or sought to harvest it for their own purposes. The Seraphim's peaceful nature and lack of defenses would make them easy targets for any aggressive civilization that discovered their world. Sarah tried to explain the concept of interstellar warfare to Elder Thymel, but the Seraphim leader struggled to understand how conscious beings could deliberately harm others. The very idea was so foreign to their nature that it seemed impossible. "You speak of creatures that destroy rather than create," Thymel said during one of their discussions. "But why would any conscious being choose such a path? What could they gain that is worth causing suffering?" "Power, resources, territory," Sarah explained. "Some species believe strength comes from dominating others rather than cooperating with them. I know it's hard to understand, but such beings exist in the galaxy."
Elder Thymel's light dimmed with what Sarah had learned to recognize as sadness. If such creatures exist, then perhaps our isolation has been a blessing. But you suggest they might find us eventually? Space is vast, but exploration continues, Sarah said gently. Eventually, someone will detect the energy signatures your civilization produces. When that happens, you'll need to be ready. This conversation planted seeds of concern in Elder Thymel's mind, though the concept of preparing for violence remained alien to Seraphim thinking. They began discussing what they called protective measures, though these were limited to concealment rather than any form of active defense. Months passed as Sarah continued her research and cultural exchange with the Seraphim. She helped them develop new applications for their energy manipulation, while they assisted her in enhancing human technology with their advanced techniques. The modified emergency beacon grew more powerful each day, and Sarah estimated it would soon be strong enough to reach Earth. The breakthrough came when Zara 9 suggested linking the beacon to the planet's natural energy grid. The Seraphim had tapped into their world's magnetic field and solar radiation absorption systems, creating a planetary network that could theoretically amplify Sarah's signal beyond anything previously thought possible. Working together, Sarah and Zara constructed an enhancement array that connected her beacon to the Seraphim's global energy network. The power requirements were enormous, requiring the cooperation of hundreds of Seraphim across multiple cities to channel sufficient energy into the transmission. On the day of the first enhanced transmission attempt, the entire Heart City gathered to witness the event. Sarah stood before the massive crystal array that would focus the signal, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. If the signal reached Earth, it would change everything for both species. "Are you certain your people will understand the message?" Elder Taimal asked as final preparations were completed. "I've included detailed information about your species and location," Sarah replied. "Earth scientists will understand the significance of first contact with a peaceful, energy-based civilization. They'll want to establish diplomatic relations." But even as she spoke, Sarah felt a growing sense of urgency that she couldn't quite explain. Time seemed to be running short, though she couldn't say why. She only knew that getting word to Earth had become critically important. Zara 9 activated the enhancement array, and brilliant light flowed through the crystal formations as hundreds of Seraphim contributed their energy to the transmission. Sarah's beacon, now enhanced beyond its original specifications, sent a powerful signal racing toward Earth at faster than light speeds. The message was simple but profound. Dr. Sarah Chen, alive and well on Seraphim world. First contact with peaceful energy-based species successful. Diplomatic contact requested. Coordinates and cultural data attached. This civilization may need protection from hostile forces. As the transmission completed and the enhancement array powered down, Sarah felt both relief and apprehension. Help was coming, but she couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, forces were moving that would soon threaten this peaceful world. The Seraphim celebrated the successful transmission with a festival of light that painted the sky in brilliant colors. But Sarah noticed that Elder Thymal seemed troubled, his usual calm brightness replaced by shifting patterns of concern. "What troubles you?" Sarah asked as the celebration continued around them. "Our long-range energy sensors have detected disturbances at the edge of our system," Timal replied quietly. "Something approaches from deep space, something that consumes light itself." Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. The Seraphim's peaceful isolation was about to end, and she could only hope that Earth would respond to her message in time to help defend these gentle beings who had shown her such kindness. The gathering storm. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of Earth Defense Force headquarters, studying the quantum encrypted message that had arrived from deep space. 3 months had passed since Dr. Sarah Chen's enhanced transmission reached Earth, and the implications still sent shockwaves through the scientific and military communities. "Confirm the signal analysis one more time," Admiral Webb ordered his communications chief. Lieutenant Commander Rosa Martinez nodded and activated the holographic display. Signal originated from the Kepler 438 system, approximately 470 light-years from Earth. The enhancement patterns suggest technology far beyond our current capabilities, exactly as Dr. Chen described. Her identity codes check out perfectly. Admiral Webb studied the cultural data Sarah had transmitted about the Seraphim, an entire civilization of peaceful energy beings possessing technology that could revolutionize human understanding of physics and energy manipulation. But more concerning were Sarah's warnings about potential threats to such a defenseless species. "Sir," called out sensor technician David Park from his monitoring station, "we're receiving another transmission from Dr. Chen. This one is marked urgent priority." The second message painted a much darker picture. Long-range Seraphim sensors had detected a massive fleet of unknown vessels approaching their system. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the Seraphim's database, and Sarah's analysis suggested they belonged to a hostile machine civilization. Admiral Webb immediately convened an emergency session of the Earth Defense Council. Representatives from every major nation gathered in the secure briefing room, their faces grim as they reviewed the intelligence from Sarah's transmissions. "The question before us is simple," Admiral Webb began. "Do we risk human lives to protect an alien species we've never met? Dr. James Park, Earth's leading expert on xenobiology and brother to the sensor technician, spoke first. The scientific value alone justifies intervention. The seraphim represent a completely new form of consciousness. Their energy manipulation technology could advance human civilization by centuries. But General Patricia Volkov, representing the Earth Defense Forces Ground Command, raised practical concerns. We're talking about sending our entire deep space fleet to a system 470 light-years away. If we suffer heavy losses, Earth itself could be left vulnerable. The debate raged for hours, with politicians and military leaders weighing the risks against potential benefits. Some argued that humanity had no obligation to protect aliens, regardless of their peaceful nature. Others insisted that helping the seraphim was both morally right and strategically valuable. Finally, President Elena Vasquez called for order. Dr. Chen is one of our people, stranded on an alien world. These beings saved her life and welcomed her into their society. That alone creates an obligation. But beyond that, if we want to be a species that other civilizations can trust, we must prove ourselves worthy of that trust. The vote was close, but ultimately decisive. Earth would dispatch its largest ever deep space fleet to protect the Seraphim world. Admiral Webb was given full authority to assemble whatever forces he deemed necessary for the mission. Within days, every major shipyard in the solar system buzzed with activity. The fleet that assembled at the Luna staging area represented the pinnacle of human military technology. 200 warships ranging from fast frigates to massive dreadnoughts, supported by supply vessels and specialized scientific ships. The flagship UES Defiance would carry Admiral Webb and his command staff. Captain Rex Torres, a veteran of numerous deep space missions, commanded the vessel and served as Webb's primary tactical advisor. The ship's experimental quantum drives could push the fleet to speeds approaching the theoretical maximum for faster-than-light travel. Dr. James Park joined the mission aboard the research vessel UES Discovery, bringing with him teams of scientists and engineers whose job would be to study Seraphim technology and find ways to integrate it with human defensive systems. If the coming battle was to be won, it would require combining the best of both civilizations. Meanwhile, on the Seraphim homeworld, Sarah worked frantically with Elder Thymel and Zara 9 to prepare defenses. The approaching fleet had been identified through long-range scanning, and the results were terrifying. They call themselves the Void Devourers, Sarah explained to the gathered Seraphim Council. They're a machine civilization that feeds on energy. Your world, with its abundant life force and advanced energy technology, represents the ultimate prize for them. The concept of beings that consumed life energy horrified the Seraphim. Elder Christak, who had originally opposed helping Sarah, now flickered with patterns of pure terror. How can consciousness choose to destroy rather than create? What drives them to such darkness? They're not naturally evolved consciousness, Sarah replied. According to the data I've studied, they were originally created as weapons by a long-dead civilization. When their creators were destroyed, the machines continued their programming to consume and expand, but without any higher purpose or moral restraint. Zara 9, who had become Sarah's closest collaborator, pulsed with determined light. What can we do to protect ourselves? Our people have never even conceived of violence. Sarah had been working on this problem for weeks. The Seraphim possessed incredible power over energy, but they had never learned to use it defensively. Their entire civilization was built on creation and harmony, not destruction and conflict. We don't need to teach you violence, Sarah explained, but we can teach you to redirect and absorb hostile energy. Your natural abilities, properly focused, could turn the Void Devourer's own weapons against them. Elder Thymel considered this carefully. You speak of using our gifts in ways we have never imagined. Can such techniques be learned quickly enough? We have to try, Sarah said, and we won't be alone. Earth is sending a fleet to help defend your world. Humans specialize in fighting impossible odds. The news that an entire human fleet was coming to their aid overwhelmed the Seraphim with gratitude. Elder Thymal's light brightened to near-blinding intensity as he processed the implications. Your people would risk their lives for ours? But we have given Earth nothing in return for such sacrifice. You gave me sanctuary when you could have turned me away, Sarah replied. That's enough for humans. We protect those who show kindness to our own. Training began immediately. Sarah worked with groups of young seraphim to teach them basic defensive energy manipulation. Instead of creating beautiful light displays or healing injuries, they learned to form energy barriers and redirect incoming force. Zara 9 proved especially gifted at the new techniques. Her natural talent for energy manipulation combined with her curiosity about human concepts allowed her to master defensive applications that took others much longer to learn. "I think I understand now why humans are such effective warriors," Zara said during one training session. "You fight not from anger or hatred, but from love and protection. This gives your violence a purpose that pure aggression lacks." Sarah nodded, impressed by the young seraphim's insight. "Exactly. The strongest human warriors are those defending something precious to them." As the weeks passed, long-range sensors provided increasingly detailed information about the approaching Void Devourer fleet. What they revealed was sobering. Over 500 ships of various sizes, led by massive harvester vessels designed to strip entire worlds of their energy. War Prime Kethak commanded the fleet from his flagship, a colossal machine that had consumed the life force of dozens of worlds. His consciousness was ancient and completely alien to both human and seraphim understanding, driven by programming that demanded endless consumption and expansion. The Void Devourers had detected the seraphim world's energy signature from across the galaxy. To them, it represented the greatest feast they had encountered in millennia of expansion. They would harvest every joule of energy from the planet, leaving behind only a lifeless husk. Sarah's enhanced beacon continued transmitting regular updates to the approaching human fleet. Admiral Webb and his ships pushed their engines beyond safe limits, racing to reach the Seraphim system before the Void Devourers could begin their attack. "ETA to target system?" Admiral Webb asked Captain Torres as they reviewed tactical displays aboard the Defiance. 36 hours at current speed, Torres replied, "but the Void Devourers will arrive approximately 12 hours before we do." Admiral Webb studied the fleet composition data Sarah had transmitted. The human force was outnumbered more than 2 to 1, facing an enemy with unknown capabilities and a significant head start. By any rational analysis, the mission looked hopeless. "Sir," called out Commander Martinez from the communication station. "We're receiving another transmission from Dr. Chen. She says the Seraphim have agreed to attempt a joint defense using combined human and alien technology." This was the breakthrough Admiral Webb had been hoping for. "Get me Dr. Park immediately." Dr. James Park arrived in the command center within minutes, his eyes bright with excitement. "The technical data Dr. Chen is transmitting is incredible, Admiral. The Seraphim can manipulate energy at the quantum level. If we can integrate their abilities with our shield and weapon systems..." "What would we need?" Admiral Webb interrupted. "Direct interface between human technology and Seraphim consciousness," Dr. Park replied. "It's theoretically possible, but would require unprecedented cooperation between our species." Admiral Webb made his decision. "Send word to Dr. Chen. Tell her we're willing to attempt full technological integration. Whatever the Seraphim need from us, they'll have it." On the Seraphim homeworld, Sarah received the message with mixed relief and apprehension. The human fleet was coming, but the window for preparation was closing rapidly. The Void Devourers' advanced scouts had already entered the outer system, their dark ships moving like mechanical predators toward the bright world that promised such rich feeding. Elder Thymel convened an emergency session of the full council, including representatives from every Seraphim city across the planet. The discussion was brief but intense, conducted in rapid light patterns that painted the chamber in swirling colors. "The time for decision has come," Elder Thymel announced. "Will we trust our human friend completely, allowing her people to integrate their technology with our most sacred energy networks?" The vote was unanimous. Every council member pulsed with the same determined light, their fear overcome by trust in the human who had lived among them and learned their ways. Sarah felt the weight of both species' survival settling on her shoulders. She would serve as the primary interface between human and Seraphim technology, translating between two completely different approaches to manipulating matter and energy. Working alongside Zara 9 and the Seraphim's most gifted engineers, Sarah began modifying the planet's energy grid to accept human technological components. The task required precision beyond anything either species had attempted, but the potential results could revolutionize warfare itself. Dr. James Park's voice crackled through the communication array from the approaching human fleet. "Dr. Chen, we're transmitting complete technical specifications for our quantum shielding and plasma weapon systems. Can you integrate them with Seraphim energy networks?" "It's possible," Sarah replied, studying the data streams flowing across her hybrid displays. "But we'll need to completely rethink how both technologies work. This isn't just compatibility, it's creating something entirely new." As the Void Devourer scouts approached the inner system, their sensors detected the unusual energy patterns emanating from the Seraphim world. War Prime Kethak received the reports with mechanical satisfaction. The planet's inhabitants were clearly advanced energy manipulators, which would make their consumption even more satisfying. But the scouts also detected something unexpected: the approach of an unknown fleet from deep space. The energy signatures were unfamiliar, suggesting yet another species drawn to the rich feeding ground. Additional targets arrive. War Prime Kethak transmitted to his fleet commanders: harvest all consciousness, consume all energy, leave nothing. The Void Devourer fleet began deploying into attack formation as they entered the system's outer planets. Their massive harvester ships moved to the rear, while fast attack vessels and assault craft formed the vanguard. The battle plan was simple and brutal: overwhelm all resistance, then systematically strip the world of everything that could feed their endless hunger. Admiral Webb watched the enemy deployment through the Defiance's long-range sensors. The Void Devourer formation was tactically sound but inflexible, designed for overwhelming weaker opponents rather than adapting to unexpected resistance. "All ships, this is Admiral Webb," he broadcast to the human fleet. "We're about to attempt something that's never been tried before. Fully integrated human-alien defensive cooperation. Trust your equipment, trust your training, and trust our new allies. Today we prove that humanity stands with those who choose peace over conquest." On the Seraphim homeworld, Sarah made final adjustments to the hybrid defense network. Human plasma conduits carried Seraphim energy through crystalline focusing arrays, while quantum processors interpreted alien energy patterns in real time. The system was untested and potentially unstable, but it represented the best hope for survival. Zara 9 floated beside Sarah, her light form pulsing with nervous energy. "Will this be enough to stop them?" Sarah looked up at the displays showing the approaching enemy fleet. Hundreds of dark ships filled with mechanical consciousnesses that knew only hunger and destruction. Against them stood a human fleet outnumbered 2-1 and a peaceful civilization that had never fought a war. "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But humans have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. Today, we find out just how much fight we have." The final hours before battle passed quickly as both fleets made their final preparations. The Void Devourers moved with mechanical precision, their formation designed to maximize harvesting efficiency. The human fleet deployed in smaller, more flexible groups, preparing to use speed and tactics against superior numbers. And on the surface of the Seraphim world, two species that had never met until a few months ago prepared to fight together against an enemy that threatened all conscious life in the galaxy. When Guardians rise. The first shots of the battle lit up space as Void Devourer scout ships engaged the outermost human patrol vessels. Admiral Webb watched from the Defiance's command bridge as energy beams and plasma volleys crisscrossed the darkness between worlds. The enemy moved with mechanical precision, their dark ships absorbing light itself as they advanced. "Enemy fleet composition confirmed," reported Captain Torres. 537 vessels, including 12 super-heavy harvester ships. They're deploying in standard consumption formation. Admiral Webb studied the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Void Devourers were following predictable patterns, treating this as just another harvesting operation. They had no idea they were about to face something completely unprecedented in galactic warfare. "All ships, execute Plan Delta," Admiral Webb commanded. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy them in open battle. We're buying time for the hybrid defense system to come online." The human fleet scattered into small attack groups, using the system's asteroids and moons for cover. Captain Elena Rodriguez led her destroyer squadron in a lightning strike against the enemy's left flank, her ships moving so fast they seemed to teleport between firing positions. War Prime Kethak observed the human tactics with mechanical curiosity. The organic fleet was using strategies he had not encountered before, avoiding direct confrontation while inflicting steady damage on his forces. But their numbers were insufficient to prevent the inevitable harvest. "Deploy harvester squadrons to planetary orbit," Kethak commanded his fleet. "Begin energy collection procedures. Eliminate the orbital defenses." On the Seraphim homeworld, Sarah watched the space battle through the hybrid sensor network she had helped create. Human ships danced between enemy formations like fireflies, their weapons enhanced with Seraphim energy, causing more damage than should have been possible. "The energy integration is working," Zara 9 reported, her light form brightening with excitement. Human weapons powered by our planetary grid are achieving 40% efficiency increases. Sarah nodded, but her attention was focused on the massive enemy ships moving toward the planet. The real test comes when they try to harvest energy from the surface. Are the defensive arrays ready? Elder Tamal materialized beside them, his ancient consciousness filled with determined light. Every seraphim on the planet is connected to the defense network. We are ready to channel our collective energy through your human technology. The first wave of Void Devourer harvester ships entered orbital range and immediately began deploying their energy extraction beams. These weapons were designed to drain entire planets, pulling life force and electrical energy into massive storage units aboard the dark vessels. But when the harvester beams struck the Seraphim world, something unprecedented happened. Instead of draining energy from the surface, the beams encountered a planetary defense network that redirected and amplified their own power back against them. Sarah watched in amazement as the hybrid system she had helped design performed beyond all expectations. Seraphim energy manipulation abilities, channeled through human quantum processing networks, created feedback loops that turned the enemy's own weapons into tools of self-destruction. Harvester ship designation Omega-7 reporting critical systems failure, came the mechanical report to War Prime Kethak. Energy extraction beam has been reversed, hull integrity compromised. Kethak's ancient consciousness struggled to process what was happening. In thousands of years of expansion and consumption, his fleets had never encountered resistance that could turn their own weapons against them. The organic inhabitants of this world were displaying capabilities that defied mechanical logic. Adapt extraction protocols, Kethak commanded. Deploy assault troops to surface. Disable defensive systems manually. Admiral Webb saw the enemy's change in tactics and knew the ground phase of the battle was about to begin. Dr. Park, is the surface defense integration complete? As complete as we can make it with current resources, Dr. James Park replied from his position aboard the Discovery. The Seraphim have agreed to directly interface with our ground defense systems. It's never been attempted before, but the theoretical potential is extraordinary. Hundreds of Void Devourer assault craft descended through the atmosphere like falling stars, their hulls designed to withstand planetary defense fire. But as they approached the crystal cities, they encountered something no machine consciousness had ever faced, a living planet that fought back. The Seraphim had connected their consciousness directly to the planetary defense grid. Every crystal formation, every energy conduit, every living system on the world became part of a vast network that could respond instantly to threats. When the assault craft tried to land, the ground itself rose up against them. Major Lisa Chen, leader of the Human Special Forces team that had accompanied the fleet, coordinated the ground defense from a command post grown from living crystal. Her soldiers were positioned throughout the Heart City, their weapons enhanced with Seraphim energy to levels that approach science fiction. Contact multiple enemy units landing in sectors 7 through 12, reported Sergeant Mike Torres, Captain Torres's younger brother who had volunteered for the ground mission. These things are big, ma'am, at least 3 meters tall and heavily armored. The Void Devourer ground units were mechanical horrors designed for harvesting operations. Their bodies bristled with energy extraction equipment and weapons that could drain the life force from organic beings at range. They moved with inhuman coordination, their sensors scanning for the most efficient routes to the planetary energy grid. But as the machines advanced through the crystal streets, they found themselves facing an enemy they could not comprehend. Human soldiers fought alongside beings of pure energy, their tactics adapted in real time through the shared consciousness network that connected every defender. Sarah coordinated the defense from the central command chamber, her consciousness partially merged with the Seraphim network through the hybrid interface she had helped create. She could see through hundreds of eyes simultaneously, feeling the pulse of the battle across the entire planet. Zara, can you redirect energy from the northern grid to reinforce Sector 9? Sarah asked her closest alien friend. The machines are concentrating their attack there. Zara 9's response came not in words, but in direct consciousness transfer, a sensation Sarah was still learning to interpret. Energy flowed through the crystalline networks beneath the city, strengthening the defensive barriers just as a wave of enemy assault units struck the human positions. Sergeant Torres and his squad held a crucial intersection where 3 major energy conduits converged. The Void Devourers had identified this as a key target, sending dozens of their largest units to capture the position, but the human soldiers were no longer fighting with purely human technology. Loading Seraphim-enhanced charges, Torres called out as massive mechanical forms advanced down the crystal street. The weapons his team carried looked like standard human plasma rifles, but they were now conduits for energy that could tear apart molecular bonds. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history. Human soldiers used centuries of tactical experience and adaptive thinking, while their Seraphim allies provided energy manipulation capabilities that turned the Crystal City itself into a weapon. Buildings grew defensive barriers in real time, energy beams redirected enemy fire back at its source, and the very ground beneath the invaders shifted to disrupt their formations. War Prime Kethak watched the ground battle reports with growing incomprehension. His assault units, which had conquered countless worlds, were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Worse, the organic defenders were actually growing stronger as the battle progressed. Ground units report enemy capabilities increasing exponentially, came the mechanical report. Defensive energy output now exceeds harvester capacity by 300%. Request immediate tactical revision. But Kethak had no revised tactics to offer. His programming was designed for overwhelming weak resistance, not adapting to enemies that could match or exceed his force's capabilities. For the first time in millennia, the Void Devourer fleet faced the possibility of defeat. In space, Admiral Webb seized the opportunity created by the surface battle. The enemy's attention was focused on the ground assault, leaving their fleet formation vulnerable to concentrated attack. "All ships, execute Plan Omega," Webb commanded. "Hit them with everything we have while they're distracted." The human fleet emerged from cover in a coordinated assault that caught the Void Devourers completely off guard. Ships that had been enhanced with Seraphim energy technology struck with devastating effect, their weapons powered by the same planetary grid that was defending the surface. Captain Rex Torres brought the Defiance into close range of a massive harvester ship, his enhanced weapons carving through armor that should have been impenetrable. Around him, the rest of the human fleet pressed their attack with determination that bordered on reckless fury. "For the Seraphim!" became the battle cry that echoed across human communication channels. Soldiers and sailors who had never met these energy beings were fighting with the passion of those defending their own families. The turning point came when Sarah achieved something that should have been impossible: complete consciousness merger between human tactical systems and the Seraphim collective mind. For a brief moment, every human in the battle became part of a vast network that combined logical military thinking with energy manipulation on a planetary scale. War Prime Kethak felt his ancient consciousness recoil as something touched the edges of his awareness. The organic defenders had achieved a level of coordination that transcended individual consciousness, becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. "Impossible," Kethak transmitted to his fleet. "Organic consciousness cannot achieve such integration without losing individuality." But the evidence was overwhelming. The combined human Seraphim force was not just winning individual engagements, they were fundamentally changing the nature of the battle itself. The entire planet had become a single defensive organism, guided by human tactical experience and powered by Seraphim energy mastery. Major Lisa Chen led a final assault on the enemy ground command center, her enhanced weapons cutting through mechanical defenders that had seemed invulnerable just hours before. Behind her, Sergeant Torres and his squad advanced with covering fire from Seraphim energy beings who had learned to focus their peaceful nature into protective force. "Target the central processing unit," Chen commanded as they breached the enemy position. "Take out their coordination hub." The assault was swift and decisive. Human soldiers and Seraphim warriors working in perfect coordination overwhelmed the mechanical defenders, their combined capabilities proving superior to pure machine logic. In space, the battle reached its climax as Admiral Webb's fleet surrounded the remaining Void Devourer ships. The enemy formation had collapsed under the coordinated assault, their tactical programs unable to adapt to an enemy that fought with both organic creativity and energy mastery. War Prime Kethak faced a decision his programming had never anticipated: surrender or complete destruction. His ancient consciousness struggled with concepts that had no place in machine logic. Retreat was not part of his core directives, but neither was the possibility of total defeat. "This unit requests clarification," Kethak transmitted to Admiral Webb, his mechanical voice struggling with unfamiliar concepts. "Your resistance exceeds all tactical parameters. How do organic beings achieve such coordination?" Admiral Webb's response came not just from him, but through the shared consciousness network that still connected human and Seraphim minds. "We fight not for conquest or consumption, but for protection and cooperation. That gives us strength your programming cannot understand." The remaining Void Devourer ships powered down their weapons in what might have been the first surrender in their species' history. The mechanical consciousness that had consumed countless worlds found itself completely outmatched by the combined will of two species fighting to protect something precious. As the battle ended, Sarah gradually disconnected from the shared consciousness network. her individual awareness returning slowly. She found herself in the command chamber surrounded by grateful seraphim, their light forms pulsing with colors that expressed emotions beyond human understanding. "We are forever in your debt," Elder Tamal said, his ancient voice filled with wonder. "Your people risked everything to protect strangers. This act of sacrifice will not be forgotten." Sarah smiled tiredly, exhaustion finally catching up with her after months of preparation and hours of intense battle. "That's what humans do. We protect those who show us kindness, regardless of what species they belong to." The aftermath of the battle brought changes that would reshape galactic civilization. The successful defense of the Seraphim homeworld proved that peaceful species could survive in a hostile galaxy, but only through cooperation and mutual protection. Admiral Webb established a permanent human base in the Seraphim system, staffed by volunteers who wanted to continue the cultural and technological exchange between the species. The hybrid technologies developed during the battle revolutionized both human and Seraphim capabilities, creating new possibilities for exploration and defense. Dr. James Park remained on the Seraphim world to head the Joint Research Initiative, working alongside alien scientists to develop technologies that neither species could have created alone. Their first project was a new type of spaceship that combined human engineering with Seraphim energy manipulation, capable of speeds and maneuvers previously thought impossible. The captured Void Devourer ships provided intelligence about other threatened species throughout the galaxy. War Prime Kethak, his consciousness fundamentally altered by his defeat, became an unlikely source of information about machine civilizations that had consumed peaceful worlds for millennia. Sarah accepted the position of Earth's first ambassador to an energy-based species, her unique understanding of both cultures making her the ideal bridge between worlds. Her small crystal dwelling grew into a proper embassy, a place where human and Seraphim representatives could meet to discuss matters affecting both civilizations. Zara 9 became the first Seraphim to visit Earth, her energy form safely contained within specially designed chambers aboard human ships. Her reports of human civilization amazed the Seraphim Council, describing a species that had learned to balance competition with cooperation, conflict with peace. The alliance between Earth and the Seraphim homeworld became the foundation for what historians would later call the Galactic Protection Coalition. Other peaceful species, inspired by the successful defense against the Void Devourers, sought protection and partnership with the Human Seraphim Alliance. Within 5 years, over 30 civilizations had joined the coalition, protected by combined fleets that used hybrid technologies developed from the original Human Seraphim partnership. The galaxy became a safer place for those who chose peace over conquest, art over destruction. Major Lisa Chen established the coalition's ground forces, training soldiers from dozens of species in the tactics that had proven so effective against mechanical enemies. Her forces specialized in defending worlds that couldn't protect themselves, earning a reputation that made aggressive species think twice before attacking peaceful civilizations. But perhaps the most important change was philosophical. The successful merger of human and Seraphim consciousness during the battle proved that different forms of intelligence could work together without losing their individual nature. This discovery opened new possibilities for cooperation between species that had previously seemed incompatible. Years later, Sarah stood in the crystal garden that had grown around the original command center, watching human and Seraphim children play together in the golden light of the twin suns. The young ones switched effortlessly between solid games and energy displays, their laughter creating music that resonated through both physical and energy dimensions. "Do you ever regret crashing on our world?" Zara 9 asked, her mature form now serving as the Seraphim representative to the Coalition Council. Sarah smiled, thinking of all the changes that had followed from that desperate emergency landing. "Never. Sometimes the best things come from the worst situations. My crash brought two species together and created something neither could have achieved alone." Elder Thymel, now ancient even by Seraphim standards, materialized beside them. "The council has made a decision about the memorial we discussed." "Oh?" Sarah asked, curious about what honor the Seraphim had chosen to commemorate the battle. "We will grow a crystal formation in the heart of every coalition world," Thymel explained. "Each one will be connected to the others through quantum entanglement, creating a network of peace that spans the galaxy. When any member species faces threat, all will know and all will respond." The memorial network became reality within a decade. Crystal formations growing on hundreds of worlds, their light visible from space as a symbol of cooperation and mutual protection. The network served both practical and symbolic purposes, providing instant communication between coalition worlds while reminding all species that they were part of something larger than themselves. The Void Devourers, under new programming developed jointly by human and Seraphim researchers, became the Coalition's most effective scouts and investigators. Their hunger for energy was redirected toward finding and stopping other aggressive machine civilizations, turning former destroyers into protectors of organic life. Sarah's story became legendary throughout Coalition space, told by dozens of species in hundreds of different ways. But the core message remained constant. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating enemies, but from turning strangers into friends and protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The human refugee who had crashed on an alien world had become the bridge between civilizations, proving that kindness shown to strangers could reshape the entire galaxy. In the end, the Seraphim had given Sarah sanctuary, but humanity had given them something equally precious: the knowledge that peaceful beings need not face the darkness alone. The last entry in Sarah's personal log, recorded 50 years after her crash landing, captured the essence of what had been achieved. Today, children of a dozen species played together in the crystal gardens of New Seraphim, their laughter echoing across the quantum networks that connect our worlds. The galaxy is still dangerous, still full of those who choose conquest over cooperation. But it is also full of hope, protected by species who learn that our differences make us stronger when we stand together. The greatest adventure of my life began with a desperate crash landing. It continues every day in the faces of beings who choose to protect rather than destroy, to build rather than consume. This is what it means to be part of something greater than ourselves. This is what it means to be guardians.